What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Critical Overlord here. We're going to be talking about Scream 7 in this video here again today. So Scream 7 might have a very big problem on its hands that I think is very easily fixable. But because of, if you were around for Scream 4 and what happened with Rio, I feel as though ever since the franchise got revived in 2019 and it's been on its comeback tour ever since then, they have been terrified to drop this movie around certain projects, and now they might be forced to explore that for the very first time in over a decade since what happened between Rio and Scream 4, because now Scream 7's release date of February 27th, I believe, 2026 is now being occupied, or it's now sharing that release date with The Cat in the Hat. So here's my thing. People are already scoffing at the idea that The Cat in the Hat would beat Scream 7 at the box office. Do not underestimate Dr. Seuss like that. I believe a few years ago, there was this Grinch movie that came out, an animated Grinch movie. And that film, I believe, was produced for about 80 million, maybe a little less. And it went on to do 600 million worldwide, I think, or around there. Maybe I'm overestimating that too. But the point is, do not underestimate the brilliance of Dr. Seuss and the fandom of Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss is embedded in a lot of society and people's interests when it comes to our youth and early adulthood and how we share it with our own children, grandchildren. Dr. Seuss is just a staple, more so than Ghostface and Scream ever will be. Point blank, period. And I think that The Cat in the Hat would obliterate Scream 7 if Scream 7 does not move from its release date. Now, that doesn't mean that Scream 7 can't still be a success in that release, but I don't think it will be as successful when you're going head to head with The Cat in the Hat. So for everyone talking about Barbenheimer and thinking it's going to be one of those weekends again, no. For people who grew up with Scream 4, it doesn't feel like Barbenheimer. It feels like a nail in the coffin, another death blow. And it's like, okay, what are you guys going to do? Are you going to stay there and you're going to take on The Cat in the Hat, which I think would be quite stupid? Or are you going to do what should be done and what you have an opportunity to do because of what has unfortunately transpired with the Saw franchise? You can do two things. Well, actually, you can do a few things. You can either go head to head with The Conjuring this year in September when it drops, that same weekend on, what is that, the 5th? Or you could go head to head with the Marlon Wayans film Him that comes out on the 19th, I believe. Or you can take Saw 11's spot, since it's not going to be making that September 26th release. And they just moved The Bride, that was also going to be competing with Saw, to 2026. So Scream has that Saw weekend all to itself now that it can take. But do I see them doing that? No. They should do it, but I don't see them doing it. For some reason, I have a feeling they're going to push it out instead of up. I feel like they should push it up, and it should drop September this year into that Saw 11 weekend, because Saw 11 is gone, The Bride is gone. The following week after Saw 11, you have Michael coming out, and you're not going to beat Michael Jackson. And if you think they could beat Michael Jackson, I don't know what world you're living in, but I don't want to live there. That Michael Jackson film, it's highly anticipated, and it would obliterate Scream 7 as well. So we'll just have to wait and see what they decide to do with this new revelation that The Cat in the Hat is going to be competing with Scream 7. I feel as though going head to head with The Conjuring Last Rites wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for Scream 7. If anything, I could see it actually benefiting some of the success it has, since you'd have two beloved horror franchises dropping new entries. One, of course, being built as the final chapter in the mainline films. Then you have one franchise who arguably I could see them trying to celebrate the 30th anniversary a bit early, and they try to market it around that. And the horror community would come out in droves to see both movies. If The Conjuring beats it, that's fine. I still think that would do something to boost up the interest in Scream 7. I feel like both films will benefit. That sounds like a better Barbenheimer situation than Scream versus The Cat in the Hat. That sounds like a bloodbath. The Cat in the Hat would destroy Scream 7. That sounds like an absolute bloodbath. It does not sound like something that people would look back on and say, yep, that was our Barbenheimer. No, that sounds like Rio versus Scream 4 all over again. And like I stated, do not underestimate Dr. Seuss. That Grinch movie, I believe it did make well over its budget of like $80 million, like $600 million or maybe a little less. So the Cat in the Hat would obliterate Ghostface. Ghostface can't hold a candle to the Cat in the Hat. I will say this, even though it's not confirmed, going off of this news, it doesn't seem far-fetched to think that we should start preparing ourselves to learn that Scream 7 is either getting pushed up or pushed out. I think the smart thing to do would be to push yourself up and take Saw 11's weekend. Or you can go against him, or you can go against The Conjuring Last Rites. I don't see the Scream franchise hurting in any of those decisions. Sticking with the date you have going against the Cat in the Hat, I see pain and suffering coming your way. So we'll have to wait and see what comes of this. I think we again should prepare for the fact that Spyglass will state that we're going to move our film into a later date. That's what I see them doing. I hope it's actually Paramount, whatever, pushing the project up. But I just don't see why. You guys do have a good point. And my argument was that this year is crowded. But with all the shakeups recently, it's not looking too crowded anymore for the month of September. It's not looking too crowded anymore. The month of September, I think, is the perfect opportunity to drop Scream 7, and I think they should do that. Do I see them doing that? No, I see them pushing it out because I think the game plan now and forevermore will be dropping it on a weekend where there are no other releases. Or at least if there is something coming out, it's something that's brand new and not going to be able to hold a candle to the Scream franchise like the Marlon Wayans film that Justin Tippin, I believe, is doing. But I just don't see them trying to compete with The Conjuring. I think they want to give The Conjuring all of that attention. They don't want to risk anything of The Conjuring beating out Scream 7. They want something all to themselves. They'd rather go against movies like that dinosaur movie that went up against Scream 6. Because nobody knew anything about that dinosaur movie. It was not a Jurassic Park film, so nobody gave a damn. They went to go see Scream 6. Scream 7 is probably going to get pushed out to another empty weekend so it can have all the box office to itself. Because some of you guys actually did have a good point when you were mentioning how it doesn't make sense for us to have to wait a year. But my argument at the time, which is now being tweaked due to the release changes, my argument was this year is just too crowded. But that looks much different now, knowing that Saw 11 isn't coming out in September. The Bride, which is supposed to compete with Saw 11 on that same date, isn't coming out on that date either. So Scream 7 has a whole entire weekend to itself in September. If they don't want to then compete against Justin Tipping's film or go against The Conjuring. I feel like the smartest thing to do would just be to go against The Conjuring or Justin Tipping's film, because at least you would give yourself a couple weeks after that before the Michael Jackson film hits for Scream to be able to be profitable. Going against the Michael Jackson film that same weekend it drops, that's stupid. Just like how I think it's stupid if you were to stick to the February release date going against the Cat in the Hat. Do not underestimate that cat. That cat would make Scream 7 disappear under its hat. But you guys can let me know what you think about all of this down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, of course, make sure you subscribe, turn on post notifications, check your never miss video. In the description, I'll have links to all my social media accounts. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can message me there, of course. Let me know if there are any movies, news, or reviews you'd like me to cover in the future. And with all that in mind, guys, I will see you in the next video.